Have you ever been having a conversation in English and everything's going well, but then suddenly you freeze? Why does this keep happening and what can you do about it? Let's talk about it. Hey up mate, and cheers for finding this video today. I appreciate that. If you're new around here, my name is Dan. I'm a British English teacher that's here to help you feel confident when communicating in English. And today we're talking all about a really common problem. It's when you freeze up in a conversation, your mind goes blank and you don't know what to do. It happens to the best of us, but we don't want it to keep happening. And that's the topic of today's video. So let's jump in. I often get messages from people like this. It says, I understand English, but I panic when I have to speak to other people. And to be honest, I get a lot of this kind of thing, variations of it. You know, my mind goes blank when I have to speak to other people, or I'm too nervous, or I'm too shy, or whatever it is. And basically, it comes down to the fact that you need to train your brain to respond naturally. Oh, good, wasn't it? Train your brain. Sounds good. So you need to train your brain to respond naturally. Now, speaking is a skill, right? Just like any other skill, it needs the right kind of practice if you want to improve. You can't just hope for best. You've got to actually do the right things. So today we're going to be talking quite a lot about this. Now, the first thing is we need to talk about why does this happen? Why does your mind go blank? Why do you freeze up when you're trying to speak? You know, because speaking shouldn't be that difficult, but for some reason it is, you know. And there's a lot of reasons. So the first reason is that speaking is not automatic in another language. It's something that you have to work on. And probably the reason this keeps happening to you is that you haven't taught your brain the right things yet. You haven't made those connections in your brain yet. And this is a big problem for a lot of people because understanding English and speaking English use different mental processes. Your brain does different things for both of those two activities, right? And that basically means just because you understand English doesn't mean that you can find the right words when you're in a conversation. Just because when somebody tells you a word, you understand it doesn't mean you can then use it. They're different things. Like maybe you've heard of the concept of passive vocabulary and active vocabulary. Passive vocabulary are words that you hear, and when you hear them or when you read them, you recognize them. You're like, yeah, I know that word. I've seen that word before. I know what it means. And active vocabulary are the ones that you can actually use. You know, you open your mouth and they come out. You can find them in a conversation. Now, active vocabulary and passive vocabulary, not the same, mate. They're a bit different. And that's kind of the problem, you know. Don't know what that accent were. I thought, on a side note, I'll start adding some little voices and little impressions into my podcast. Immediately rethinking that. But there you go. So yeah, just because you can understand stuff doesn't mean you can use it. And you have to kind of train your brain to be able to do the two different processes at the same time. So speaking is definitely not automatic. It's something you're going to have to work on. Another reason this happens is people translate in their head too much. And this is a problem that you're not training yourself to think in English, right? When you first start learning a language, you end up using the translation method. You know, you learn that, I don't know, this word in your language is this similar word in English, you know. Let's say in Japanese, for example, I can say, okay, apple in Japanese is ringo. Okay, so I translate. Every time I hear ringo, I go to English and think apple. Okay, got it. And that's translation. And that's how we start learning any language. When you get to a point, this starts causing more problems than it's worth. And you have to start thinking in the language that you're speaking. Otherwise, you're doing a lot of work. Think about it like this. Somebody says something to you in English. So then you translate that into your own language. And then you think about it and what it means. Okay. And then you have to think about how you would respond in your own language. And then you have to translate that into English and then say it. That's a lot of bloody work, mate. That seems like a lot of effort to me. I don't know. Like, as somebody who enjoys the simple life and doing things as easily as possible, that seems like a bad idea. So even though it's hard to force yourself to think in English, in the end, it's going to be way better for you. So I don't know, the extra steps from translating and translating back, and seems like it's going to take too long, mate. And that ends up causing you to hesitate. And that's a bit of a problem as well. You know, if you're pausing all the time while you translate things, it's like, have you ever done that when your internet's slow and you try and load a website and you have to wait more than 2 seconds? And you're like, oh my God, why is this so slow? Imagine that in a conversation. It's not fun, is it? It's not fun. So yeah, translating in your head is another reason that you keep getting stuck. And another one is, I mean, this is pretty normal, isn't it? You get nervous. It's natural. You know, anxiety is one of those things that just kind of makes your mind go blank. You know, the more pressure you put on yourself to be perfect, the harder it gets. I know that's kind of counterproductive, but that's how it works, isn't it? You end up in fight or flight mode if you get too anxious. You know, if you ever dealt with anxiety before, you know that eventually it reaches a point where you're like, flight or fright, flight or fight or freeze, which in these cases can happen as well. And it makes it harder to think and calmly access the words that you know. So all three of these things, you know, eventually end up causing the problem of you getting stuck in a conversation. And that's not cool. That's not what we want. What we want is for you to have nice flowing conversations. But that's why this happens. Now, a lot of people kind of just accept this as it is. You know, oh, I'm always going to translate in my head, or I'm going to get nervous when I speak. That's normal. But I'm going to tell you why these things are a problem. The first thing is that if you keep freezing up, you're going to eventually not enjoy conversations, which means you're probably going to avoid having conversations, which means then you're not going to be able to connect with people you meet, and you're going to end up feeling pretty lonely. And that is no bueno, which I think is Spanish for not good. I don't know Spanish. But that's what the problem is. Freezing up makes you feel bad. That means you're going to not want to speak, and that means you're not going to be able to speak to people, and you're going to have no friends, and you're going to live under a bridge like a troll. And that's not cool. That's not cool at all, mate. So yeah, that's one reason we need to fix these things. Another reason is that the longer that you wait to start practicing speaking, the harder it's going to get to start practicing speaking, because the more you put it off and the more you put barriers between you and practicing speaking, the harder it's going to get, because the problem's going to keep getting bigger and bigger in your mind. I don't know if you've ever felt this, like when you've got a bit of a worry about something, then you think about it and you think about it and you go over it and over it again. Eventually, that problem becomes so massive in your mind, way bigger than it actually is. It can be very easy to put yourself off taking any action because you've blown this problem up in your brain. Like, we don't want to do that, mate. So the best thing to do is start practicing now and stop wasting time, yeah? Another reason that this is a big problem is that even if you know English well, yeah, you've got a decent English level, people might assume that you don't understand just because you hesitate too much. You know, if you're thinking and pausing and thinking and pausing all the time, the other person might be like, is everything all right? You know, do you understand what I'm saying? And then it can hurt your confidence because you feel like everybody's questioning your understanding. It's not cool. And I don't know if you guys know this, but thinking time in English should be a maximum of 3 seconds. Like, more than 3 seconds of silence, it's not cool. You know, you need to be doing something. You need to be saying something. You can't leave 5-10 seconds blank. That's such a long time. You know, 10 seconds to wait for somebody to speak is an absolute lifetime. 3 seconds is a long time. So imagine, you know, you're speaking to somebody and you're like, please wait, sir, while I find 5 to 10 seconds while I search for a word. Like, nah, mate, I'm all right. Let's crack on. So yeah, I think that people might assume your English level is lower than it is if you hesitate a lot. And I think another thing that you need to consider is that studying more words doesn't equal confidence. We talked about it before, but you might start doubting yourself, right? And when you doubt yourself, you start to think, okay, I need more English. I need more grammar. I need more vocabulary, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll spend more time studying than practicing. And we all know that confidence and fluency comes from action, not reading. So yeah, that's a big problem. And these are 4 things that you need to avoid if you want to stop freezing up in conversations. Now, all this is pretty doom and gloom so far. Don't worry, mate. I'm here with some positives. I'm going to tell you how you can fix the problem starting today. Now, first of all, we've got to think about training the brain. That's what we're doing here. You've got to retrain your brain. And the way we're going to do that is by speaking every day. Every day we're going to be speaking, even if you're alone, right? And if you're not sure how to do that, I've got something called the Speaking Practice Planner. It's got exercise ideas. It's got a planner so you can track your progress. It's available for free. The link is in the description and the show notes. Click the link, put your email in, I'll send it you straight away. It's got everything you need to get started, yeah? But anyway, we're going to use that planner or your own techniques, whatever it is, and we're going to do that in order to practice speaking every day, even if you're alone, even if it's just, 10, 15 minutes a day. That's all we're looking for. And that's going to give you some benefits, right? The first benefit we're looking at is that you need to speak. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds weird. If you want to get better at speaking, you've got to speak. And you do that by regular, consistent practice. Okay. You also need to repeat the same exercises and the same skills over and over again, consistently over a longer period of time. You need to do the same things over and 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 over again until it becomes second nature. Think about like driving a car. The first time you drive a car, it's so overwhelming. You've got so much stuff to concentrate on, like which foot do I put on which pedal and which gear am I in and all that kind of stuff. If you've driven for 3, 4, 5, 10, 18, 20 years, don't even think about it. It's just automatic. And that's kind of what we want to happen for speaking. So you're going to do the same kind of exercises over and over again. And you're going to track your progress over a long period of time. Like I mentioned earlier, the speaking practice plan. It's also got a tracker so you can track your progress over a period of time. And I think tracking your progress is important as well. So yeah, you need to be repeating things over and over again. Like if you go to the gym, you don't just pick up a weight once, do you? Like, oh, I've done one bicep curl. That's a job's a good one, innit? I don't need to do any more of them. Yeah, you probably got to do, I don't know, 300,000. I don't know how many you got to do, but you got to do a lot of them, basically. So yeah, we're going to need to do some repetition. The next thing is you need a structured, organized plan. You need some structure to the madness. You can't just do random things and be like, well, I spoke to the wall for 38 seconds today. That's good enough. Is it though, mate? Is it? Oh, yesterday I went outside and I shouted at some daffodils. All right. Great. But how does that help? It doesn't, does it? We've got to have some logic to the madness. Speaking practice that's structured and it's consistent and it's built towards a goal and it's organized. That's what we're looking for today. And like I said again, the planner is designed to help you plan this out. It shows you how to schedule the practice for this week and what you need to prepare and shows you how to track it and make sure that you're showing up every day consistently and you're working towards a goal, right? Which is important. The next thing that you're going to need is exposure to native level speech as much as possible. TV, podcasts, YouTube, people around you at the bus stop, whatever it is, these things, the more you're surrounded by native speech, the more you're going to understand and the more you're going to, on a subconscious level, try and mimic it. And even further than that, do things like shadowing. And I think we've done a full episode about shadowing before, where shadowing is you listen to a native speaker and you repeat it. You copy it like a parrot. You just try and mimic it as closely as you can. And shadowing, it's covered in the planner as well. And there's a full episode on the YouTube channel about it. But yeah, do some shadowing. Copy native speakers. That's going to help you build your confidence and speak. And it'll help you develop that flow, which will help you stop getting stuck in conversations as well. You're also going to need consistency. And I'm talking every day. You're going to build them muscles in the gym. You're going to have to do it consistently. And the same is true for speaking in English. Now we're talking, if you've got 15 minutes every day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, 5 minutes in the evening, you'll make progress really quickly if you show up every day for 90 days. If you show up every day for a year, you're not going to even seem like the same person. It'll be like an overnight transformation. It'll be unbelievable. Like when Bruce Wayne puts on his Batman costume. Basically, same thing. And yeah, I think that's really important. And the last thing is you're going to need a destination that you want to get to, as in a goal or the thing that you want to focus on. And you're going to need a plan to get there. Now, the way we do this is that you need to track your practice, right? And I don't just mean, okay, I've done my practice today, check. But I mean, you've got to do some reflection. You've got to think logically about what you practiced. How did it feel? What was easy? What was difficult? What do you need to do better next time? So reflection is a big part of it. And in the practice planner, there's reflection sheets. So you can write down how you felt and what you think went well and what you think you need to work on next time. And all of these 6 things, speaking every day, repeating the skills over a long period of time, structured, organized practice, native level speech that you can emulate, consistent daily practice, and a destination and a way of tracking it. All of those things are going to help you when it comes to getting over this problem. And I did mention it a few times in there that I've got the speaking practice planner, the free guide, yeah? But there is actually something else that I want to show you today. Now, I offer something called the Speaking Practice Pack, and this is a 30-day email course. So every day for 30 days, you get an email from me, and it includes everything you need to practice speaking for less than 15 minutes every day. So the way it works, you get an email from me, and it'll say something like, okay, today's exercise is shadowing. And there's a video from me explaining exactly what you need to do and give you some tips and tricks and go through the process and show you exactly what you need to do. It's also going to give you everything you need to do that exercise, all the shadowing materials, all the articles, all the podcasts, whatever we're using to practice, it's included in the email for you. And it's designed to get you started. Sometimes these things, the hardest thing to do is get started. And the first 30 days are already planned out and organized for you. It's delivered directly to your email. So all you've got to do is open your email and do the practice. That's it. It's going to be the easiest way to get started. And it's available right now for $29. That's less than $1 per email. What can you do with $1 these days? I don't know. You can't even buy a coffee. You can probably buy, a Snickers bar for $1. So you could buy 30 Snickers bars and, feel bad about yourself. Or you could buy this and feel good about yourself and practice your speaking. The link is in the show notes and the description. It's called the Speaking Practice Pack. So check it out. I think you might find it valuable. And now it's over to you. I want to know which of the things in today's video are you going to start doing today so you can stop getting stuck in conversations. Let me know down in the comments. And if you still think the way to fix this problem is by learning more vocabulary, I suggest you watch this video next.